Lordy again, and today I'm covering a subject that some people are going to thank me for and some people are going to hate me for. I can't think of any more controversial subjects in the vaping world than the whole discussion of sub-ohm vaping, and with very good reason as well. A lot of people that know electronics and a lot of experienced vapers who have learnt a lot just through having the habit and enjoying it and to a certain level obsessing about it. They would much rather this wasn't spoken about at all, because if you don't know what you're doing, you will put yourself at serious risk. Now, a lot of people think that that means it's a subject that should never be spoken of, but if you look at history, as far as I'm concerned, prohibition is something that has never worked and will never work. I'm all about personal freedom, and I think that if it's something that you've got an itch to scratch over, then you're going to do it whether it's talked about or not. So I wanted to make this video to say, if it is something that you want to do, there are some very important things that you need to know, and I want you to do this safely. So this is all about safety. Now, the first issue I'm going to cover is perhaps the most critical, and that is your batteries. Batteries are so important because if you overstress them, if you put too big a load on them, then there's the potential for the different materials inside to fuse or to break down, and in doing so you run the serious risk of your batteries either venting nasty gases or blowing up in your face. Either way is not a happy ending, and it's something that you need to be very, very mindful of. You cannot just take any old battery, even an 18650, and chuck a low ohmage on it. There's something called hybrid batteries, and the one that I would recommend, in fact I'll put a graphic up, is the Panasonic CGR 18650CH. And the reason why I recommend this battery is because you can run a coil down to 0.4 ohms, not a coil. You can run a setup down to 0.4 ohms and it will handle the load safely, and safe is the key word. It is designed for high current draws, and you can be assured that if you are running it in a mechanical down to those low ohms, it's not going to break down, it's not going to do anything dangerous. So that's rule number one. In fact, I'm just going to show you a little bit of sub-ohmage. This is an iGo W, which I've just reviewed, and I've got two coils in there set at 1.3 ohms, which means that I've got a 0.65 ohm resistance running overall. If you, well, yeah, double the coils, half the resistance. That's the general rule. So I'm going to take a vape. I'll take the lock off first. It's a lot of vapour, a heck of a lot of vapour, but the flavour's still really good. And the flavour's still good for one reason. And in fact, I'm going to skip that. I'm going to talk about point number two now, which is running single coils, dual coils, or quad coils, or whatever it might be to achieve your ohmage. There's some worry. Now, I don't know how well founded it is, but there is some worry that if you overheat an e-liquid, then it breaks down into some nasty substances such as formaldehyde. Now, we gave up the fags to avoid putting this crap in our system, so why would you want to take the risk of, again, putting all those harmful things back into your body? And you do that basically by superheating your e-liquid. So, if you run a single coil at 0.5 ohms, that thing's kicking out some serious heat. And if people are saying that that can damage your e-liquid, break it down into some nasty things, I don't want to know. So general rule of thumb, if you're running 1.3 ohms overall or above, you can probably go with a single coil. If you're going below that, then really you ought to think about having a dual coil setup. Now with a dual coil, basically you run two 2-ohm coils to make a 1-ohm coil. Basically double the coils is half the resistance. So if you're running, say, if you want to achieve an output of say 0.8 to 1.3 ohms, I'd consider a dual coil setup. If you want to go below say 0.6, my scales are all off here I know, but if you want to run a 0.6 overall resistance, then that's two 1.2 ohm coils. As far as I'm concerned, that's pushing it slightly, and perhaps you need to think about a quad coil setup. Now there is more than just e-liquid safety that's involved in this. There's also flavour. Now if you take, I mean, I've had all sorts of e-liquids in my time. Some of them have been really good, some of them have been terrible. I've had a couple of flavours where if you run it at anything below 1.8 ohms, then it just tasted burnt and nasty. So if you want to maintain the flavour of your vape, then again, making sure that your coils never really drop below the 1.3 ohm limit per coil is the best way to make sure that you're still maintaining and getting lots of good flavour. And that brings me on to the third and final point, which is the intensity of the flavour and the intensity of the vape. The iGo W, when it comes applied, has, well, this one at least, had two 0.5mm air holes in it. Now that's fine. If you're running, say, an overall resistance down to, say, an ohm, you just take a single mouth draw and you inhale. Now when I did that, when I got it fresh out of the box, it was flavourful, but it was seriously hot. And if you want to drop below kind of the 1 ohm threshold, then really you need more airflow. You need more airflow because it helps you to take a quicker draw, so you still, you're activating your battery for less time, but you're getting a similar output to running a higher resistance and doing longer button presses. If, however, you want to start going even lower, then you need to get more air into the mix. More air into the mix lessens the intensity of the flavour, and it also reduces the heat as well. Generally, if you want to do kind of 0.8 ohm sort of vaping, the best way to do it and to generate these big plumes that you see is to really open up the airflow. I've got two 2mm holes in this, which allows me to do direct lung inhales. So just press the button, inhale, I'm not holding it in my mouth, it's straight down into the lungs. Yeah, and again, I think depending on the level that you're going down to, something else you need to be mindful of is that your lungs are covered in tiny fine hairs, and these fine hairs are there for a reason. They're important, and you don't want to go burning them off. So depending on the resistance that you're going down to, depending on the heat that you're experiencing from that setup, you want to, at the very least, just inhale into your mouth and give it a second or two to cool down slightly before you push it down into your lungs. Or, if you're going the direct lung inhale route, which I'd say is probably the most sensible, then you need to open up the airflow so that you're not getting intense heat, you're getting no burning in your lungs or anything like that. So that's my Sub-Ohm vaping video. To recap, priority number 1, absolute priority, safe battery chemistry. You want to be making sure that you've got at least a 10 amp draw rating, and a 10 amp draw rating will allow you to safely go down to about 0.4 ohms. Number 2, if you're going to run coils, or if you're running any individual coil below 1.2, 1.3 ohms, then consider swapping that out for a dual coil setup. Number 1, there's evidence that it could be healthier. Number 2, you get a lot more flavour out of your vape. And the final rule, if you're getting intense heat, or if you want to do direct lung inhales, open up the airflow, get more air in with a mixture, and it will reduce the intensity of the flavour slightly. It will certainly reduce a lot of the heat and make sure that you're not burning off those fine hairs at the back of your throat. That's it. I'm going to take one more vape for you. And I'll say see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Be safe now.